Hello, everyone. We warmly welcome you all to our special program brought to you by Indian Achievers Forum. I'm your host, Vatika Singh. Indian Achievers Award is an honor that celebrates the people who went extraordinary to effectuate their aspirations and ideas. In this series, we emphasize not only on the struggles and achievements of the people, but also on the social contributions they made to their native land, India. Before introducing you all to our one such achiever, let's take a look at the small AV.
The Indian Achievers Forum is driven by a full-fledged advisory board. The board consists of experienced personalities who have excelled in their respective careers. Together, the forum organizes conferences, events, workshops, exhibitions, trade shows, and B2B initiatives in India as well as abroad. Where there is passion, there is achievement. And where there is achievement, there is Indian Achievers Forum.
Mr. Arjun Natarajan is a global citizen who has lived and traveled to many parts of the world from east to west. He has a diverse portfolio with a strong background in management, consulting, and investment. Having worked in China, New York, and India in the consulting field, he has a lot of experience in understanding global markets and cross border business development. He is largely focused on empowering domestic businesses to scale up in their cross border activities and make cross border business development mainstream. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, Vatika. Thanks for having me. I'm good.
All right, sir. So, before entering into the questions, tell us something about you and your professional role.
All right. So, thank you for that lovely introduction. And I am the founder and chairman of A&J Consulting International. It is a cross-border management consulting and an investment firm. So, we largely focus on foreign direct investment (FDI) and helping businesses expand to foreign countries. In short. In addition, I also serve as the director of CCOIC, that is the China Chamber of International Commerce of the Zhejiang branch, and I am also a senior Sino-Indian business consultant and advisor to the Zhejiang Commerce Department in China. And on the investment side, I do serve as an investor and a board member in a blockchain company called ZDEC.
Right, sir. So, how did this idea came into your mind of starting this business?
So it's been around 3+ years since I started my firm. Earlier
Okay.
to that, I used to be working overseas, especially in New York and in China, in the cross-border consultancy space. So we used to help companies from one part of the world expand to the another part of the world. So that was my specialty. And it so happened that I was looking for opportunities in China. And I also had a lot of friends that I made over time in China. And a lot of my friends in the investor circle, in the entrepreneur circle, and especially in the various provincial governments, everybody were keen to know about India. They wanted to expand their businesses in India. And it occurred to me as I come from a cross border consultancy space, why not I address this issue? Because so far, when I looked at the other competition and other companies in the world, everybody was expanding between from India to the United States or to Europe or to Singapore. Not much has been done between India and China. So I saw this opportunity. Why not I address this particular market between the two largest Asian giants? And that's how the idea was born. And in fact, we started out as two people with an idea with no office. And today we have 15 plus people with 3 offices in China, 1 office in India, and we have multiple partner offices across the globe. And I'm very happy to say that we are taking on a lot of new projects and we are expanding in spite of the COVID downturn that we have had.
Right, sir. So, moving ahead, we know for a fact that starting anything has never been easy for any one of us. So, what all were the challenging predicaments that you had to go through initially when you started this business?
Right. So, being an entrepreneur, you constantly challenge yourself whether the decisions that you're taking is it right or not. So, there is always that constant evaluation. Sometimes when you make a decision, there is yield, and sometimes there is no. yield, but you still have to go through it and see how you can do it better. But in terms of major challenges, well, I would say we started off with flying colors. In fact, we had paying clients even before we incorporated. So I incorporated the firm in China, and then we incorporated our Indian entity. So in a way of saying, I incorporated overseas and then bought the firm to my homeland. And in terms of the setbacks, well, just when we kicked off, COVID set in 2020, and that COVID was not the major problem. That did have, businesses kind of, leaving the country, being very sluggish in nature. But the biggest blow came to us was during the geopolitical tensions between both these nations. It put, the politics aside. It put businesses in a frenzy, meaning businesses between both these nations had to either exit from one of the countries, one of the markets, or they were scrutinized big time. And there was a lot of red tape surrounding it. And in spite of all of this, I would say we endured. In fact, it was in 2021 during one of the peak COVID seasons in India, we expanded, and we ended up opening our Indian office in late 2020. And today we are focused on expanding our Indian team as well. But apart from the COVID challenges, having a cross-cultural and a cross-border team is the most challenging part on a day-to-day basis. Because sometimes in the morning, I'm on a call with my Chinese team, and they are 2.5 hours ahead of our time zone. And in the afternoon, I'm on a call with my Indian team, and sometimes I'm on a call with our European business partners. So having each of them work together with each other and understand, how the thought process works, and getting them on board towards the goal, and helping them achieve, is one of the biggest challenges, I would say, as being the founder of the firm.
Right, sir. So, tell us about your experience you had before starting this business.
All right. So, see, in terms of my education, just to give a bit of my backdrop, so I do hold a bachelor's in mechatronics engineering from a premier institute in Tamil Nadu. I also did completed my leadership education from London School of Economics in United Kingdom, and I did my MBA, a major in global entrepreneurship and innovation from Emilion Business School in France. So, in terms of my working portfolio, I think I've worked in more than 3 countries, I would say. So, I worked in different parts in India. I worked in southern India. I worked in northern India, in logistics and in the telecom sector. And I also did some freelance consulting earlier in the operational space. And post post my career shift, I moved into business development and then cross border business development. So I was working for a firm in China even much earlier to my masters, where we helped companies. We did take them to Russia, in fact, and then I moved to New York City in the US, and we helped companies from Canada come to the East Coast, help American companies from the United States go to China, and help companies from Poland, Finland, and France come to the East Coast United States. So I think the whole element, as you put it, as a global citizen, has always been in my DNA. For me, cross border is something that I stumbled upon, I would say, but I always felt that's where my heart lies. That's where I felt home was. Always reaching out to people of different backgrounds, different culture, and in terms of starting the business, I would say it occurred to me because I saw a value in these two nations and what was missing. Because see, India and China have been neighbors for so long, even before India had a very strong ties with the West, with the United States. And I never saw the business happening between these two countries mainstream. Today, it's easy for us to say, probably, like have one of our family members in one part of the United States or in the United Kingdom. But as how many people even have traveled to, let it be Japan, let it be Korea or China? So, in fact, I felt the tide was shifting from west to east. And a lot of these companies in the eastern economies and eastern countries are really surpassing in terms of R&D, in terms of technology, in terms of ROI and revenue over to the Western companies. And I felt that I had to come to the East. For me, it's just not coming back to the homeland. Probably, I would say I wanted to bring the glory back to the East from the West, and that was the drive that I really had. that made me leave New York? Because that's one question a lot of people do ask. So you had a very good job, you had a good paying job. Why leave New York and come back to India or the East in general? For me, it is I want to bring the glory back to the East in a way, and this is I find this to be something as a small contribution that I'm doing. Like in terms of bringing FDI, foreign direct investment, from overseas to India, and I'm actually proud of what the decisions I've taken and leaving New York and coming to the East and building my business.
Right, sir. So, since we know that we all have certain plans for our future, so what are your future plans and vision for the company?
Right. Well, I would say we are still a very young company in terms of the number of years and the markets we serve. So, in the consulting industry, generally, even having 15 to 20 people as a core team is quite a high number of people for an organization, unlike the IT industry. And since the beginning, we starting with one office. Today we have three offices in China, and I think we are planning to expand that even more. We want to address the target audience locally. Most of our clientele are foreign based companies, so the work is actually done in India and overseas, but the paying clients are foreign companies by large. And right now we are also beginning to take local clients or domestic clients from India. So I think as the next immediate thing is we increase our transnational resources. We want to collaborate with more and more firms. In fact, I think from 2020 or the COVID era, we partnered with 5+ firms. That one of the main reason is a lot of these companies across the globe felt that there was a need to share resources because everybody was hit, not just us. Even big firms that were 10 times the bigger than us, all were hit. But there was a particular niche that we were catering to, and we all ended up pooling our resources. In fact, during COVID, we saw more growth than pre-COVID, I would say. Pre-COVID was a good start, but COVID gave us a lot of push. In fact, there is a saying, at least a local, the business jargon we say, the more chaos or chaotic the environment is, there's more business for consultants and the legal advisors. So I think playing on that note, there is a lot of opportunity. And given to the fact that India is as a rising superpower and China is also aggressively rising as a global superpower, a lot of these opportunities do come for us. And we are yet to completely tap into these opportunities. See, the pie is so big, and there is still a room for a lot of growth. And as a firm, I believe that we want to expand our footprints to multiple third countries. Today, we can cater to Israel, we can cater to Northern Africa, certain parts of Eastern Europe and Western Europe. But I think down the line, at least within the next 2 years, we want to have a much solid presence in other countries apart from China and India, I would say.
Right, sir. So, this year we'd be celebrating 75 years of independence of India. So, what are your views on this, and what do you think that how far we have come? And this 75 years of independence is known as Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. So, what would you like to say on this?
Right. Uh, the good thing is I'm happy that I will be in India to celebrate the 75th Independence Day. I don't think so. I'll be going abroad anytime soon, given to the scrutiny in international travel and restrictions it has. For me, what I really love about what the current administration under Prime Minister Modi is doing is he is putting India on the world map. Because at least for the past considerably around 4 to 5 years, I've been overseas full-fledgedly, and the type of response that India is getting on a world stage is highly commendable, and thanks to his administration. And I personally empathize with his morals and his ideology because he wants to make India a superpower. And apart from it being self-reliant, but more importantly, we have a much bigger say so in the global order and global geopolitics. And I think there are things that the government has done well, and it resonates with my ethos. See, one of the reasons I came back from the West to the East is because of my fondness to do something to the country and develop India and develop the Eastern economies. And given to how business is rising across industries, across sectors, I think right now it is the right time to be in India or in Eastern countries, addressing businesses between these countries. Because the way I would put it as is the wave or the tide is rising in the east, and it's better that we catch the opportunities right now because there are so much of untapped opportunities, and a lot of Western companies, American firms, European firms are investing in India, and Indian companies are scaling up. I think we have to capitalize on that and build domestic Indian players. And as it being the 75th Independence Day, I think that itself sets a huge milestone on the global stage and what Prime Minister Modi is doing.
Indeed, sir. So, moving ahead, tell us something more about the product and services of the organization with which you cater to your clients.
Right. So in general, so as I said, we are a consulting and an investment firm. So there are pretty much five kinds of services that we offer. So it used to be four services, and now we have added the fifth one. So there is a consulting vertical to the services we offer. There is a business services vertical that we offer. There is an investment vertical of services that we offer, and there is a digital services vertical that we offer. And recently, through a partnership firm, we are able to offer citizenship services by investment as well. So under consulting services, we do provide various kind of audit, risk assessment, advisory, company incorporation, in terms of any kind of regulations, foreign direct investments, FEMA regulations, FDI aspects. Similarly, under business vertical, we help you get connected with the correct kind of government, what kind of tax holidays and incentives are provided, what kind of network for you to tap into, and any kind of product sourcing, partnership sourcing that is we undertake. Investment services is how to structure your investment from the overseas or the holding company to India. And digital services is we do assist in IoT and Industry 4.0 technology, and definitely we are currently able to assist in the blockchain space because we have our own blockchain subsidiary as well overseas, and assist them with any e-commerce integration overseas, product sourcing, product purchase. And one of the most differentiating element or the unique selling points that we offered is that differentiates us from our competition is we do a 100% hand-holding approach. What that means is we sometimes we partner with the client as one of a stakeholder in implementing a project or helping that company come to India. So not just we act as a service provider, but we have what do you call certain obligations because it is our company as well in a manner of speaking. So I think this was something very new that we started providing, especially for the Chinese clientele, because see the biggest challenge here is the West or the Western companies are very easy to convince in terms for consulting services, whereas the Asian mindset is very different. They are generally a bit skeptical about advisory and consulting services. But whereas when we partner with them, there is a certain amount of trust that we are able to build with them. That irrespective of we being a service provider, we are able to be associated with the project in its complete product life cycle. It is just because rather than they dealing with one person or two people to get a project done, they deal with us, and we deal with all the regulatory departments, all the compliance department, or any other kind of the other industry stakeholders, and we do it for them. And in a lot of cases, we do partner with them. So that hand holding approach with partnering with our clientele, that ensures a lot of trust that they have in us. And I think over the years we have noticed a lot of increase in demand where they want us to partner with them. And I think this model is not something we are noticing with our clients from the Western nations. So we do have clients from China. We also have clients from the Middle East. Some clients do come from the West Coast of the United States. So we have had clients here and there from Western EU. So I think with China, this is a huge selling point.
Right, sir. So the pandemic has affected all of us in some way or the other. So how has COVID impacted your business and the relationship between China and India?
So in terms of first, I'll answer it in two phases. So in terms of the relationship, I would say we were very happy. In fact, in 2019, I'm not sure whether people or you recollect, Vatika, is that in I believe October 2019, the Chinese president, President Xi, visited Chennai and Mamallapuram on an unofficial one-week meet with Prime Minister Modi. In fact, that was the talk of the town for that period. And there was a sister state agreement signed between Tamil Nadu and a Chinese province called Fujian. And within a matter of 3 4 months, COVID happened. And once in China, so in fact, I was there in China. I witnessed COVID firsthand, to be honest. Luckily, I was not in Wuhan. I was in another city, not that far away from Wuhan, I would say. So for me, by the time I would come back to India, was quite a tricky situation. But that aside, after I came back to India, within 4 to 5 months, the entire border conflict happened, and the geopolitical tensions between the nations really, changed the whole ball game altogether. So COVID did put a lot of constraints in terms of business operations scalability, but in terms of China is concerned, it is the geopolitical factor that is really limiting the business. And for us, in terms of COVID, what really happened was we had to do a lot of think outside the box. We had to go disruptive. I would say, because we visited the drawing board and we changed how we approach things. Because now a lot of these clients did not want to expand, and our sole focus was companies that are looking to expand. They were a target portfolio, a target clientele. And now a lot of companies didn't want to expand. And I think it was during this COVID time we realized that we could not just rely on China, India alone. That is when we start partnering with companies in other third countries to help companies from China or India go to these said third countries. And by then, we also built a certain amount of trust with our clientele and our expanding clientele network. Some of them, sometimes we have had one particular client, at an early stage come out to us and say, Arjun, I know I've been working with you for the Indian market, but I want to take my product to the European market. Can you assist? Normally, what we would do is we would refer them to our connections in our network who focus on the Western European region. And but we tell them we don't focus on Europe, but would they be okay with us referring? But they end up telling us that since we already have a level of trust, you want to work with your partner firm, it is okay, but they want to work with us. And in terms of COVID, we also restructured and started offering another set of services, the investment services. I think in 2021 is when we made our first investment. So until then, we were only a consulting firm. And in 2021, we began investing in companies. So the investment side of the business is still relatively small, and the consulting side is the bigger vertical. I think by 2025, I'm very positive that we want to push more of the investment side, and we want to make the investment side a very huge vertical in both India and China.
Right, sir. So, talking about your entrepreneurial journey, how has it been so far, and what is your inspiration and aspiration with this journey?
So, one question that generally I'm asked is this, Arjun, why China? I mean, you could have picked any Western country. In fact, I've had my family visit my office in China as well, and they'll be like, you picked a country that do not even speak English. They even if you go to the capital, Beijing, people hardly speak English, and Shanghai to some extent they do speak English, but a lot of other regions even navigating the country is, I would say, it's a bit tedious over to the Western nations or to Singapore or Malaysia. And in terms of entrepreneurial journey, I wouldn't say it's all been smooth. I've had my ups and downs. In terms of, there's been a lot of cultural shock, but for me, that is where I thrive. I would say, for me, interacting with people of different race, different ethnicity, different religion, and different background, and different walks of life, has always been something that I could easily connect myself with. So, and having a broad mindset is, I would say, is the reason for me to be very comfortable interacting with so many people. So it is not I immediately, booked a ticket and I flew to China. So over my course of life, I've traveled to multiple countries, from let it be from all the way from Tokyo to the Middle East to Western EU to the East Coast and the West Coast of the United States. I'm able to see, how the world is changing in terms of not just economy, but just as a nation, as a world, how we are changing, and what are the reasons that some countries are able to outperform or do better. So, being an entrepreneur, what I love the most is that you're always constantly on a day-to-day basis. You have to reinvent and think what can be done better, how can you add more value. And that's one of the reasons I did my specialization in entrepreneurship during my MBA, because I always wanted to add value in what I do and what I'm driven by. So in China, I saw that there's a lot of business models and a lot of business, the ecosystem that only exists within the country and not outside. And I have a lot of these Chinese friends that tell me, Arjun, you picked the right country for you to come and do business, because you get to see, being an Indian, you get to see how India is going to be in the next 10 to 15 years. It's like a time machine. We call it in a business slang. So what India is going through right now, at least many elements of it, both at a macroscopic level and a microscopic level, China has been through it at least 10 years back. And we have to learn from them in terms of what they did right and how they failed implementing certain regulations. And I think that is the key to stay ahead in the game, because I think nobody did it better than China in terms of within the 30-year growth. And I want to bring that back to India, because I want to see in the next 30 years India be a much bigger player in world politics and in global order. And in a way, whatever way I can contribute, I think there are steps that I'm taking to it. And having an entrepreneurial mind, you always helps you see value and helps you, take that plunge. And I think that's the biggest call for me. Rather than me associating myself as just a consultant, I would say I would associate myself as an entrepreneur with the entrepreneurial thinking cap any day.
Right, sir. So, moving ahead, according to you, is there anything that the government could do to make international business easier?
Okay, so that is this question is very wide scope, I would say. There is a lot of things the Indian government can do. One, for starters, definitely the regulations and better policies and frameworks have to be implemented. One of the reason is, see, India today is still, in terms of, there is a metric, the ease of doing business metric, and India still is not even in the top 50 nations in the world for ease of business doing. And I think that has to improve when better regulations are implemented. Just because I'm saying this, it does not mean India is not doing anything correct. We are doing it. Under the Prime Minister Modi scheme, there is the PLI scheme, product linked scheme, where certain kind of incentives are offered for a certain particular kind of projects that are implemented domestically, procuring a lot of domestic raw materials from domestic suppliers rather than importing the entire value chain from overseas, especially from China. So, at least with respect to China, there's a lot of red tape. I think whether India likes to admit it or not, maybe the politics do not need China, but businesses need China. Because overnight you cannot say, you be that self-reliant, saying that I don't need China, I'm going to cut all the value chain from China. We cannot do that. I think that red tape has to be reduced. Just, I'm not sure if you have followed a lot of these companies that do business with China or import products or get some of their intermediary goods from China have been scrutinized in the customs, in the ports, in various ways. And a lot of Chinese companies are not able to do business here. So that red tape has to be reduced. And there's been a recent Fresh Note 4 regulation that has been passed as well. I think that is in a better direction to what the country is doing and easing up the red tape. But I think we would need a press note 5 where it says Chinese companies should be able to largely do business with India, and India should definitely be part of more foreign trade agreements and free trade agreements with the Asian countries in order to facilitate better cohesiveness within the Asian bloc. So yes, that's the right now India has gone through a lot of difficulties with COVID. A lot of businesses have been hit. So FDI and government incentives are the way we will be able to easily pick up the economy. So if you have noticed, the bilateral trade between India and China, irrespective of so much of geopolitical tension, the bilateral trade has crossed 100 billion mark for the first time, and that too during the COVID era after 2021. So I would say no matter how much the government tries to stop businesses happening, the business community knows it better. Both India and China need each other, and if we are able to join hands together, I think we can surpass the Western nations easily. And in fact, that is something that, as a long-term dream, I want to see, where we bring the ancient glory back. It's not the Western-run democracies; it's the Eastern-run nations that have a much bigger say so in the global order.
Right, sir. So, first of all, congratulations on winning the Indian Achievers Award. I really want to know that what was the feeling when you came to know that you have won the award, and how do you think that this award will enhance your personal entrepreneurial journey as well as contribute to the company's vision?
Oh, well, to be honest, I was very happy when I saw the email. And when I read the email, I noticed that I was achieved the Indian Achievers Award for my contribution in nation building. So that was something that I was very touched by, because uh, when people do appreciate the work you do between India and China, and people are aware that there are people that are really understanding, or trying to understand the sensitivities of both these countries, because I've lived in China, I've lived in India, so I'm able to see realistically without any propaganda. I'm able to realistically see. I felt that this award really, what do you call it, goes a long way in motivating and acknowledging the work we do. And in terms of the long term vision, I would say is I would still continue to build the nation, build the relationship both these countries have. Because what politicians see, what government officials and bureaucrats see, and what business people see, are it's all in different lenses. So I've been to China as a tourist. I've been to China as just visiting friends. I've been and family. I've been to China on doing business. So there are a lot of different lenses I see, and this award definitely puts a smile on my face at the end of the day. And I think all our team members, both in India and China, by large, all have a very positive outlook on both these nations. And such an award does inspire a certain amount of confidence and trust in the work we do, and it does help our employees see the vision that we are actually driven by. And I was really happy to notice and read the email that when the IAF really identified that there are people who are in this sphere of work and helping to build nations.
Right, sir. So, before concluding this session, what message you would like to give to the young generation to, stay consistent and persistent in order to achieve success?
So for the young generations, I would say is, be relentless, go out there and do it. Because see, I could have taken a very comfortable route in my life, not just a 9 to 6 job, but more importantly, uh, you need to have a risk appetite. There is a saying that goes, it's not the strongest or the most intelligent succeed, it's the one that's most responsive to change, or the one that's more relentless. So in this era, people need to take risks, especially young entrepreneurs or new entrepreneurs. It is okay to make mistakes. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes in my entrepreneurial journey, but all of them teach you something. So I would say is go out there, start young, start now, because the world every 5 years it is changing drastically. And I think the next 5 years, what we implement today is not going to be very relevant to what we're going to be implementing 5 years later. So put in the work. There is no shortcut to the journey that you're taking, but being committed to the process is the key. So I tell all the new entrepreneurs is, if you can start young, do it now, because you have the mental and the health aspect for you to be very strong and be supportive, rather than you taking up your entrepreneurial venture in your 50s. So go out there and do it right now. If you have an amazing idea, invest in yourself. So that is the biggest thing you can do, and that's the biggest contribution you can give, not just to the society but to yourself as well.
Right, sir. And that I must say is a great piece of advice. Thank you so much for joining with us today. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we hope that you continue to inspire people of all ages forever. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Vatika, for having me, and I thank IAF for this award as well. And hopefully, more and more good news between the nations to come.
Definitely.